Years ago, when someone was trying to convince MBL not to steal a boar, he responded with this.
Oh, let's all just play peaceful in Dark Age and live in peace. This is Age of Empires, man. It's a war game. You're supposed to take things and do stuff. I'm taking a boar.
And that statement of it's a war game is worth remembering from time to time. The point of this game is to build up an army to slaughter the opponent, or slaughter the opponent's army. And while you probably know that, you probably didn't know that there could be such a big difference in how players control their armies. Now, some players are faster than others, but players can use their speed, or lack thereof, with a variety of formations in the game. The default formation in the game is line formation. But after that, there is the box formation, the flank formation, or we'll refer to that as split, and then the stagger formation. In Hidden Cup 5, we just see 16 heroes. We know there's 16 players behind these heroes, but we don't know who is who. So I wanted to dive in and look at the numbers on how these formations are utilized in a game. And the numbers are mind-blowing to me. So we're going to start off with split. Now, split or flank formation is usually used with crossbows or any ranged units as you may try and approach or depart from an enemy siege weapon. You don't have to be that experienced to know what this is. This is the most common form of micro that you'll see with crossbows, and there's something just very satisfying about it. The numbers you are seeing on screen there are the average amount of time that the split formation was utilized in a game for these players. And that's the middle of the pack. And the numbers you're seeing on screen are surprisingly low for me. We've got quite a few players there that I would expect a little bit more micro from. But at the end of the day, the split formation is a very niche use. When you think about it, players are probably splitting away from a mangonel a couple times a game, so a lot of the averages being around 3 to 4 does make sense. But above the handful of times that the other players seem to average, we have two of the youngest players in this event much higher than the others, with Mihai at 11 splits per game and Sebastian at 14. And then at the very bottom, below everybody, we have 4 veterans of the game. We have MBL, ACCM, Yo, and Doubt at 1 split on average per game. So let's move on to Stagger. So the common use of Stagger is when you have a group of ranged units and you want to spread them out from receiving a lot of damage. If you don't have the ability to split, sometimes it's best to just spread out your units so fewer of the units get hit by incoming shots. Now, it's not just ranged units. You can also do this with a group of knights to maybe surround other units. And it is something that players probably use more than split. It's just not as obvious. So yet again, we have the average. We have the middle of the pack here, with the lowest of the mid being Barrels at 12, heading up towards MBL, who's at 21. But yet again, we do have players that are at the top here, and it's pretty substantial. We have Hera, who staggers 39 times a game on average, and then Leary, who staggers 43 times a game. So if you see players who are using Stagger very frequently, Hera or Leary confirmed. Now, I know the big numbers are exciting, but most of you guys actually just want to find out who is at the bottom. And yet again, we have some repeat names on this list, with ACCM at 2, Yo at 1, and then Sebastian and Doubt at 0. So far, if you're keeping track, Yo and Doubt split on average 1 time a game. And then Yo uses Stagger on average 1 time a game. And Doubt never presses it at all. This is mind-blowing to me, how there could be such a big difference in unit commands. But we're not finished yet. The final formation box has a different use for pro games than when you were 12. When you were a kid, you probably had made a knight and maybe named this knight and maybe was role-playing with this knight. And this knight was your favorite knight, and it was your friend, and you wanted the knight to be protected. So you used box formation to surround the knight and escort him around the map. That is not what pros use box formation for at all. And box formation is actually a relatively new use for the pro scene. Where you will see box formation utilized is with low numbers of units. If you have low numbers of units and you are not using box formation, changing directions will sometimes mean that the units will actually move in directions you might not be able to control. And this is a bad thing if you're a player controlling your units, because you want them to stay as tightly grouped as possible without changing position. And so box formation is part of the meta now, with the majority of players using box formation for low groups of scouts and archers. Beyond a certain number, like 10 to 12 units, box formation no longer has as much relevance, and you are going to see most armies just in the standard line formation. So now that you understand why box formation is used, let's look at the numbers, because we have massive discrepancies on this one. The middle of the pack, the average, is 5 players. Sebastian, Mihai, Viper, Vinchester, and Ganji, both are doing this a solid chunk of the times they're playing a game. And this is beyond what I thought would be just feudal age armies. It is very clear that box formation is being utilized in the Castle Age and beyond with these averages. But then right below them, we have the numbers that I would have expected. Hart, 8 box formations. Tato at 6. ACCM at 5. 4 from Jordan. Like, all of these numbers here, this to me makes sense because, at least in my experience, again, it is low numbers of armies. And if the game goes on for a long time, you're not going to really benefit from it that frequently. But at the top is something that I have to assume is just a little quirk. I, for example, am always selecting my TCs without actually doing anything. Players have all these things that they do that are just habit, that have no benefit whatsoever. Now, maybe this is me jumping the gun. Maybe this is actually helpful. But Hera averages 316 boxes per game. Hera is boxing out there, and I have to assume that this is something that he is selecting with every type of army he has, because that is a lot. So if you see someone spamming box formation in Hidden Cup 5, Hera confirmed. Now, that's hilarious, but what's even crazier is the bottom. Leary uses box formation 1 time a game on average. 1. And then the others, we have MBL at 0, we have Barrels at 0, and we have Doubt, again at 0. If you were looking at small groups of armies, if you were looking at scout formation specifically, this is an easy tell to find out who players are, in my opinion. You don't have to look far to see that MBL and Doubt do not do this. You could look at clips and see they are not box formationing their scouts. So if there is no box formation used by a player in Hidden Cup 5, MBL, Doubt, or Barrels confirmed. And that, my friends, is Age of Formation, which completely blew my mind. I was not expecting to see so many discrepancies here. And if you're adding it up, there was one player who has an average of 1 of these actions per game with 1 split a game. That is Doubt. So that is it, my friends. Thank you very much for watching Hidden Cup 5. More Hidden Cup 5 action is coming up next, so stick around.